Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I'm here not with a book review because I did not finish the book, but a DNF review, if you will. I did DNF reviews when I blogged, and I'm thinking about bringing it back here on BookTube because I want to talk about these books and talk about why I didn't finish them, but also be able to recommend them to people who might enjoy them. So I wanted to talk about my thoughts on American Royalty, which I received an arc of. I don't remember when this is supposed to be released, but I'll put that on the screen for you. This is a romance that is loosely based on Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, but replaced Meghan Markle with Megan Thee Stallion. Our heroine here is a rapper. I don't think I ever read the synopsis for this book, so I really don't know how else to describe it aside from that, to be totally honest. So if that sounds interesting to you, then you may enjoy this. It unfortunately just did not work for me for so many reasons, and there's really not much more that I can say without spoilers. So if you have not read American Royalty but are planning to, this is your official spoiler warning. Like I said, I ended up DNFing this at 24%. The only thing that I really liked about this book was our female main character, Dani, who is the rapper. I liked Dani as a person, however, I didn't always agree with her actions. There were a lot of times where she would do things and her inner monologue was like, I really don't want to do this, I'm not comfortable with this, but I'm not going to say anything because XYZ. And I can understand being loyal to the people that help you get to where you are. However, there's a big difference between loyalty and letting someone walk all over you and fuck you over, in my opinion. So while I did like Dani and I do think she had potential, it wasn't enough to keep me interested in the story. So if you read this, feel free to let me know how Dani's story ends. I do hope that she overcomes all of the hurdles that were thrown at her, but I just didn't care enough. So Dani was really the only thing that I liked. As far as my dislikes, racism. I don't need racism in my romance. I said the same thing about The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. It's not for me. And are all of the things that Dani faces things that Black women in America face all the time? Yes, absolutely. However, this is supposed to be a romance, and like I said, I DNF'd 24%, and at this point the main characters hadn't even met each other yet. This book is like 500 pages. I don't think it needs to be that long, and I didn't really care enough to get to their romance. I also did not care about the prince's individual story. Nothing about him was compelling to me. And even though I didn't like the prince, I can understand and feel for him with feeling weighed down by his royal responsibilities and all of that. But even when he was supposed to be choosing people to perform at the concert and he chose Duchess, aka Dani, without doing any research, it was like, that was the dumbest fucking thing ever. Like, how did that even happen? So then when he finally does watch her video, I guess it was his uncle who was being disgusting, talking about her, and then the prince himself says she's basically a stripper. Wasn't a fan. It didn't sit right with me. On top of that, I didn't like that Dani's manager was a piece of shit and kept making decisions about her career without her input. And I think after reading this particular chapter is when I decided to DNF. There's this random pop star, some random white girl, who basically starts an online feud with Dani, using doctored videos, cutting clips to make it seem like Dani's being mean to her, saying that she was supposed to be on her album and backed out, which wasn't even the case, and all this other shit. And that just really fucking pissed me off. On top of that, Dani has a skincare line for Black girls, and all of the major makeup companies were pulling out of their deals with her because of this random white girl who started this bullshit with her for literally no fucking reason. And then the company that did take the time to meet with her was like, well, you need to publicly apologize. Bitch, what? No. And so I do know I got as far as Dani saying no, that she was not going to apologize. I don't know what happens in the end, if she ends up having to apologize or if she is able to expose this bitch or whatever the fuck. But I really wasn't here for it. And while I did talk to Niece, who did end up finishing this book, she says that while it starts off with an actual plot, it just ends up being much more smut towards the end. And that's fine, but I just didn't care. Like, what was the point of throwing in all these different plot elements if it wasn't actually going to matter in the end? So it wasn't for me. If it sounds interesting to you though, definitely feel free. Y'all know that I'm super critical of romance. I always have very strong opinions about them. So unfortunately, this book was just not for me. I don't even know if I would give this author a second chance at this point, to be totally honest. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's really all that I can say. I just really wasn't feeling it. It definitely just wasn't for me. If it sounds interesting to you, hopefully you enjoy it. But for us to be a quarter of the way through, the main characters haven't met, and to not really care about either of the individual stories, it just wasn't gonna work out for me. So unfortunately, that is it. Let me know if you have read this or if it's on your TBR. Again, I don't want to be the one to discourage you from reading it. It just wasn't for me. But we all know how I am when it comes to romance. So is it a surprise? No. I really need to stop requesting romance arcs. And as I say that, I remember that I just requested 2 more romance arcs. Probably not a good idea. But anyway, let me know if you have read American Royalty. Otherwise, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.